Today we're going to have a look at a shot that Ben worked on for Greenbelt back in 2025, and it was a series of videos that they worked on for their social deliverables. Really interesting technique that used a few props and a really technical technique with the camera to tie it all together, and involved loads of different volunteers getting stuck in from the audience. So yeah, we're just going to break down how he approached that and how they did it on the day.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm Mr. Happy.
Smart. So this is a shot that you put together as part of a project for Greenbelt, which is a big music festival. It happens every year. We've worked with these guys for, I think, 4 years now. As well as the main video, we've been looking at bringing some like smaller soundbite-led videos or just social-ready content, essentially. So did you come up with this idea together with the client, or was it one that you and Laura had when you were working on the brief?
I think it was something that like the client had seen something similar and they knew that they want to adapt that sort of style. So they'd seen a lot of videos from their Instagram page, Phone on the Bridge, which is like, it's a slow zoom out of someone just talking into a phone, but the audio stays clear the whole time. So the whole time the viewer feels like they're on the phone with the person that's there. And they knew they wanted that kind of vibe, and then also adding a little bit Greenbelt in there as well.
So for that, then the location changes per episode, or
yeah, it changes basically pretty much every
okay,
shot.
cool. So was that a consideration that you guys had then? Obviously, with the festival, there's like a huge variance of different stages, tents, events that are going on. Did you ideally go into this kind of wanting to bring in a combination of different locations?
So I'd never been to the festival before, so I didn't really know what the grounds felt like. But Laura worked really well with the client to establish some areas that were not only would work well for the video, but also quite logistically, we were able to get there. And then it's also picking the places that have good foot traffic so that people will walk past and see it and then interact with it.
Yeah.
You know, none of this is scheduled, or like, we're not pulling people and saying, oh, will you come do this real quick? Like, it's all just like people passing by, and then we were giving them a prompt that they'd then pick up the phone and go from there, really. Yeah, it's like an installation at a festival. Like, you know, it's an interactive installation at the end of the day.
You've got your reference, you've got the brief covered, you've got your ideas down. How do you then go about looking at the way you would approach it in your production?
It was a bit of like trial and error more than anything. We knew that we wanted to use a phone similar to this. So it was kind of a case of like, right, how do we get a wireless lav mic in this phone where you can't really see it, and then also have a transponder on the camera? And then at the same time, you have to try and like have a long enough lens that the camera will reach without it being seen. We got another one of these phones and realized that like the receiver was too big to fit into the bottom cup. There wasn't enough space basically in there to fit the actual mic unit itself. So we knew that we had to use a little lav mic and then somehow run the wire across.
What's the transmitter was actually in here, but you had a lav route through the wire?
Yeah, so when we tested it, I think we actually used this phone, and I basically hid the transmitter in this little gap in here.
Okay, yeah.
And then ended up running the wire through the middle of the bungee.
Right.
And then just having the lav in there. What we realised kind of after testing it a few times was like the lav needed quite a lot of foam packing and stuff, so that when you picked it up, it wasn't rattling around too much. And also because it's quite close to your mouth, you don't get that kind of pop that you normally get if you're speaking directly into a mic. But also because it's still kind of in this plastic shell housing, you still kind of get this like lo-fi phone sound.
Yeah.
Which initially we were like, we wanted a really clean sound because we thought that would maybe add to like a higher production value. But I think as soon as we heard it sort of coming out of this phone, we realised that like that sounds exactly like it does when you're talking into a phone. Yeah,
it's like that classic, I think, high pass effect that you'd put onto audio to make it sound like someone's actually talking into a phone, usually when you're doing it in the post-production side.
Yeah, so when we shared that with the client was like, no, we love that more. Like, keep that as best as you can.
So I am hopeful that we can create a better idea of what the future should look like. And we should more in our communities have moments where we collectively imagine a better future together and then make it happen.
So you did a Previs as well, didn't you? Just to kind of test it out a little bit more thoroughly, make sure you didn't kind of come across any significant issues on the day? Obviously, when you're building props specific for it, you want to make sure that they're going to work. Do you want to talk us through the Previs a little bit? We've just got it on here now.
Hello. This is a kind of a weird scenario because you're kind of expecting someone to talk back to you down the phone. So it's weird to hold the phone up to your face and not have anyone speaking down the other side. Yeah, no, so me and Harvey went down to the park, and that's just around the corner from our office, and there's a long stretch of footpath, probably about 50 metres or so. So we set the camera up on one end on a set of sticks, and then phone up on the other end. But when you've kind of got like things interfering, we just wanted to see like how comfortable it would be. And then also like the focal length on the camera. So we had a 70-200 and then a 2x extender on it as well.
Because this is quite tight the way it's framed on here, isn't it? It's not, it's not super wide or anything. So how far away was the camera setup on this instance?
I think on that's probably about 50 to 60 metres away.
It's a nice little bits here where you've got like
when the bike comes past and stuff. Yeah. It was just like really little happy accidents, and it was like just a really nice day, so it was nice to just get outside for a little bit and test it out.
So was there anything from this then that you came back to the office afterwards and were like, okay, we definitely need to look at that, change that up a little bit, or it's not worked quite as we'd planned, or did it pretty much come together as you'd expected?
I think I realised like we needed to pad the microphone out a bit more because it was still kind of rattling around a little bit.
Right.
We needed to make kind of like a bomb-proof set design. So if there's wires and stuff everywhere, or like things that can be moved and shuffled around, people will just do that. And then also we realised like the camera needed to just be a little bit more steadier because of it being such a zoom lens. If you don't have like a load of weight on the tripod, any little knock will just cause like a huge shake. Surprisingly enough, like despite the fact it's a massive camera, a lot of people didn't spot it at all. And there were some cases where we were stood even closer than what we were in the Previs as well. So I was certain we wouldn't get spotted, but people didn't have a clue.
What works really well when you're out on shoot, and then what were some of the things that were a little bit trickier to navigate?
I'll start with the tricky things first, I think, but like, because there wasn't actually that many. The main thing that was the hardest thing to figure out was probably just the audio. So one thing that we didn't test in the Previs, which we wouldn't really have had any way of knowing, is the interference that can be caused by people just walking in front of the microphone. Even though we were quite close at certain times, the amount of interference you get from, other metallic items, sound equipment, lighting, everything that you would see at a festival. It can cause like little blips in the audio. I think it just meant we were a little bit more careful with our locations and where we actually were. So like the shot that's on screen now is probably the busiest location that we used. But yeah, some of the other times we were like, okay, we did one other shot where we were almost shooting over the top of people, and that worked quite well. We were able to be quite far away because there was nothing interrupting the signal. And then one in like a slightly quieter area where there was less people walking directly in front of the camera, and more people just like behind.
Right.
So yeah, this was probably the trickiest one to actually like nail a shot, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and you see on this one, there's lots of people constantly like walking in and out of shot, back and forth. I think there's even a point about halfway through where someone rocks up with just a trailer and just stands there for a few seconds. Yeah,
it's so busy. But that's what the client wanted. And I think it adds to the, it's at a festival because you see all those people there and stuff. And it's such a big festival. And, anytime you go, there's like huge fields and fields of tents and huge stages and things. And then we wanted this to be like a really quiet moment for people. And I think that was the vibe that we were trying to capture, is like this really like nice, tight, quiet vibe in and amongst this huge festival. So like having the people walking in front and stuff, I think it kind of adds to that layer.
And how did you then take that into the edit then? Had you been making notes on the day, like which takes you particularly liked, or people that worked particularly well, I suppose?
So we shot for 3 days and we did a different location on each day. And yeah, we just got like a whole different variety of people. We kind of picked our selects and some of our favorites and then sent them off to the client, and the client was like, keep this, get rid of this one. And, so they had a nice variety to work with.
Which was your highlight, would you say? What was your favorite take?
There was a lot of funny ones. What I loved about it was like how honest it was. I didn't expect people to be as open with it as quickly as they were. I remember on the first day, this guy walked past with his friend and he said, I'll see you back at the tent. I need to sit down and just talk. And he sat there for maybe 15 minutes and he just talked through his like whole childhood upbringing into where he is now, into like growing into becoming his own man. And he was saying how he wanted to like move countries, and he just had this like really open, honest conversation. Anyone could have been watching that or listening to it, especially because I'd only just got to the festival. I'd never been to that festival before.
I would say, I mean, I think that's a nice wrap anyway, so I'm not going to drag this out. But I was really impressed looking through it all when you got back at just how much quality footage and takes you got out of this setup. Because like you say, the fact that this is just a tiny part of coverage that you're doing festival-wide over just a couple of days, and you can never guarantee when you sit down that you're actually going to get anything usable. I think you were saying at the time, like when you'd set up and you sat there, you kind of thinking it could be like hours before anyone even sees the thing, never mind actually comes and speaks to it. So
yeah, it's
great
like
that it
bird
works so well.
watching. It's like you have no idea what's going to come across at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, it's a testament that like, okay, I know that I've done my job properly because we've created this space where people can go and do this. And sometimes, you know, what we do as a job isn't just about getting the output and getting the video and getting the content that we need. It is about the experience of what you provide as well. And I think that project specifically was definitely a heavy hitter for me.
Yeah, good luck doing the same at Leeds Fest.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. Probably get set on fire or something. Stolen.